Drive-by media. That's what Rush Limbaugh called them, huh? The biased, silly, superficial, never have time for anything, never can go in depth. They just name call and move on, right? Protect Democrats and leave the rest to who cares? They're just out for themselves. It's really been highlighted beautifully by the Robert Hur report into Joe Biden and the classified documents. This man did such a public service for America. No one, however, is reading the report. It really is interesting. You know, they're still talking about, oh, Joe Biden has no memory. Yes, he does. No, he doesn't. That is, in a way, besides the point. It really is. There is so much in this thing that we need to digest and comprehend and share and aggressively say, we can't stand for this. There is a little bit of demonization going on because he did a great report. Robert Hur is now public enemy number one, actually, right? He's just a Trumper. Well, the day Merrick Garland appointed him, he seemed to be pretty impressed.
Mr. Hur has a long and distinguished career as a prosecutor. In 2003, he joined the department's criminal division, where he worked on counterterrorism, corporate fraud, and appellate matters. From 2007 until 2014, Mr. Hur served as an assistant U.S. attorney for the District of Maryland, where he prosecuted matters ranging from violent crime to financial fraud.
All right, so it goes on like this. Hur has every credential in the book for a big job like this, and they loved him then, but he produced a report with real teeth. And now he's nothing but a Trumper, right? Well, again, he did the right thing. And all right, first we're going to go into some theory and then the actual goods that he's got in this report. We've been doing it for days. There's still more to cover. But this is what Joe Biden did wrong at the get-go. The very first thing he does is issue a statement to these guys. If I had seen any marked classified documents in my home or office between the time when I was serving as vice president and president, I would have immediately returned them to the U.S. government. That's what he tells them right off the bat. This statement is in the report to counsel through Joe's lawyers. This is what he said. And it took them about probably 6 minutes to know that this was not true. He had classified stuff all over the place, top secret stuff that he had to have seen. And in painstaking detail, they illustrate how Joe could not have missed this material. And that's why right off the bat, they hit Joe and they hit him hard. Forget his denials. Conclusion number one, President Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials after his vice presidency when he was a private citizen. And you hear that word willfully. Well, they define it a little bit later in the report. What does it mean? It sounds pretty serious, but let's go. Willfully is when a defendant acts with knowledge that his conduct was unlawful. Isn't that something? Joe Biden retained this stuff, disclosed this stuff to unauthorized people, and he knew it was wrong. He knew it. Now, there are a couple of things that we need to clarify because the fake news, they use these things interchangeably. Well, they don't really anymore. They're done talking about this. But there are two types of classified material Joe was reckless with, okay? Marked classified material. That would be, say, a file made by the Department of Homeland Security or the Central Intelligence Agency or the Department of National Intelligence. And it's like, okay, this is a guide to weapons systems in Afghanistan. This is how many terrorists we think there are wanting to kill us in Europe right now. Stuff like that, prepared by somebody else. This stuff was all over his house, office, garage. Now, there was another type of classified material, notebooks, all right? Joe writing classified information into his notebook. May seem kind of harmless, a notebook, but if you're in the Situation Room and you're writing stuff down, that stuff becomes classified right away. They even have a picture of Joe putting in one of those notebooks with all kinds of classified stuff in it into his suitcase at the end of a workday. I mean, they got him red-handed. He's not supposed to be doing this stuff. And the material is very sensitive material. This is how they characterized it. Let's go through it here. Number one, in there was U.S. intelligence sources, methods, and capabilities, U.S. intelligence activities, the activities of foreign intelligence services, U.S. military programs and capabilities, foreign military programs and capabilities, plans and capabilities of foreign terrorist organizations. And if any of this stuff fell into the wrong hands, it could do very grave and serious damage to our national security. I don't think that has been fully taken in by the American people. Joe Biden is guilty of what they falsely accused Donald Trump of. And of course, what are they doing? Trying to blame the underlings, the little guy, the staff members. And attention of former Joe Biden staff members, are you going to take this?
Do you take responsibility for at least being careless with classified material?
I take responsibility for not having seen exactly what my staff was doing.
The report states this clearly, that this was likely the result of inadvertent packing by staff.
He was saying staff was clearly involved, responsible for the packing. We don't see presidents and vice presidents during transitions packing boxes. But he recognizes now when he looks back on it, maybe more involvement on his part was necessary because it didn't go the way he thought it should have gone.
All right, as I already pointed out, Joe Biden was actually seen packing boxes as vice president and loading those boxes onto a truck, all right? And throughout this report, staff members of Joe Biden know that Joe is reckless with this material, and they are trying to do something about it. They're trying to stop him. They're trying to gain control of him. I want to go back to the report. While many members of Mr. Biden's staff sought to ensure that classified information was handled and stored properly, the Office of Vice President as a whole was unable to account for all the classified material Biden received and retained. It goes on. Mr. Biden was known to remove and keep classified material from his briefing books for future use, and his staff struggled and sometimes failed to retrieve these materials. The executive secretary team sought to retrieve Mr. Biden's classified briefing books every day, but could not always do so. He would keep them. On occasion, he removed one or more briefing memos from the classified briefing book before returning it. You're not supposed to do this stuff. And in 2010, the executive secretary team raised concerns about the number of classified briefing books that Mr. Biden had not returned, and the fact that even when they were returned, some of the content was missing. Now, how many? In June of 2010, when nearly 30 of the classified briefing books from the first 6 months of 2010 were outstanding, just floating around somewhere. Now, we know that Joe is a bit of a mooch, right? He's a cheapskate, and he likes to stay in other people's houses for free. In 2010, Joe was doing that. In the Hamptons, playground of the super beautiful and the mega rich, he went to some guy's house for August, a house worth $24 million, owned by a guy named David, and big-time LGBTQIA activist and donor. Biden stayed there, for free in August of 2010, and guess what? He left a great big top secret classified book in the house. In August of 2010, Mr. Biden failed to return top secret, sensitive, compartmented information, also referred to as code word, contents of a classified briefing book that he had received during a trip to the Hamptons in New York. And where is it now? Unable to determine whether these documents were ever recovered. It's in that rich billionaire's house. Still, I'm sure they said somebody, Joe lost the stuff? How could he lose it? How could he? The man is reckless. The man is out of control. He's writing stuff down and taking it home. That is the Situation Room. You're not allowed to do it. And everybody in that room knows it. Also, you know those note cards that Joe's walking around with? A lot of them are classified. And he knows that. And so does his staff. So Joe is vice president of the United States, being Joe Biden, playing by his own rules, being very arrogant, yelling at staff, and there's a near revolt among the staff. There's an email from an anonymous staff member, anonymous to us. They know his name. Listen to this. From the report, an email that they uncovered. On October 18th of 2016, in the Office of the Vice President's National Security Affairs Office, there began a discussion of the use and disposition of the Vice President's notes. These notes, which are currently being stored in the EEOB, that's the big building next to the White House, room 2091, contained classified information that is commingled with personal notes of the vice president. They cover a span of several years. None of the notes have classification markings or are otherwise indicated as containing classified information. But the determination of classified content was made by the Deputy National Security Advisor after reviewing the content. Kristen Bakatic, the Vice President's Executive Secretary, insists that the notes belong to the Vice President and should be made available to him without restriction. She has indicated that she is aware that these notes will be used during the book writing process, but she is confident that he, the Vice President, understands which information is classified and which information is not. Kristen has stated that these notes should not be subjected to the regulations of the Presidential Records Act because they fall under the category of personal notes, but she is wrong. She has stated that the Vice President can keep these notes, including the classified portions, without redaction after the administration has ended. This person says no way, by the way. She has repeatedly stated that his position as the Vice President of the U.S. excludes him from the guidance that other members of the administration are required to adhere to. I do not agree with Kristen. I believe these records are being mishandled. However, Kristen is my superior officer, and I am not in a position to challenge her authority. So she writes this email. I have requested to not be a participant in any project or meetings that involve these records. Not participate to not participant. I wonder if that's our typo or hers. Anyway, she knows something's up. And so does Joe. So does Joe.